What is the funniest joke you have ever heard?
This woman goes into a funeral home to make arrangements for her husband's funeral. She tells the director that she wants her husband to be buried in a dark blue suit. He asks, "Wouldn't it just be easier to bury him in the black suit that he's wearing?" But she insists that it must be a blue suit and gives him a blank check to buy one. When she comes back for the funeral, she sees her husband in the coffin and he is wearing a beautiful blue suit. She tells the funeral director how much she loves the suit and asks how much it cost. He says, "Actually, it didn't cost anything. The funniest thing happened. As soon as you left, another corpse was brought in, this one wearing a blue suit. I noticed that they were about the same size and asked the other widow if she would mind if her husband were buried in a black suit. She said that was fine with her. So I switched the heads. A man walks into a bar and says to the bartender, "I've got a little man that plays the piano in my pocket." The bartender doubts the man, but the man insists, "If I can show you him, will you give me a free drink?" To which the bartender obliges. The man takes him out, who's only about 10 inches in height, and he plays a little tune. When the amazed bartender is handing the man his free drink, the man asks, "If I show you how I did it, will you give me another free drink?" The curious bartender obliges, and the man says, "There's a little wizard in my other pocket that grants wishes." The bartender hands him another free drink, and the man makes his third and final request. "If I let you make a wish, will you give me another free drink?" The bartender obliges and says, "I wish for $1,000. But after he says it, 1,000 ducks fill the room. Angered, the bartender exclaims, "I didn't ask for 1,000 ducks. To which the man replies, "Well, do you think I wanted a 10-inch pianist?" A man tells his friend that he thinks his wife's hearing is going bad. His friend told him to ask a question from far, get closer, and ask again if she does not respond. So he goes home and try that. He asks, "What's for dinner?" No response. So he got closer and asked again. He did this 2 more times, and finally he heard from his wife. For the 4th time, chicken. A lawyer, a priest, and an engineer meet every week for a game of golf. One day they get stuck behind the slowest group of players they had ever seen. They were hitting the balls all over the place, getting stuck in just about every trap and patch of rough, and missing just about every putt. Finally, the group gets frustrated and heads to the clubhouse to find the manager. "What's with that group of players? They're the worst I've ever seen. They're holding up the course." The manager looks sheepish. "They're retired firefighters. They lost their eyesight running into a burning orphanage to save the children. They love golf, so I let them play for free for charity." The priest looks ashamed of himself. "As a man of God, I feel terrible for getting angry at those men. At my next sermon, I'll see if I can get a collection going for their families." The lawyer likewise looks chagrined. "Same here. I'll check with my firm and see if we can't open a case to get them awarded restitution for their pain and injuries." The engineer says, "Why can't they play at night?" Man goes into a butcher's. Asks, "What happened to your assistant?" Butcher replies, "Fired him." Man asks, "Why's that?" Butcher replies, "Because he was putting his meat stick in the bacon slicer." Man asks, "What did you do with the bacon slicer?" Butcher replies, "Fired her as well." There was a guy in high school that landed a date with the hottest girl in class for the prom. First, he went to pick out a suit and had to wait in a huge line. Then he went and picked out flowers and waited in a huge line. Even when he called around for limos, he had to wait in hold lines for all of them. Finally, the big night arrives and he takes his dance to the prom. When they get there, he asks his date if she wants him to get drink, and she says yes. Much to his surprise, there was no punchline. What's the difference between Dubai and Abu Dhabi? People from Dubai don't like the Flintstones, but people from Abu Dhabi do. As Mickey and Minnie were before the judge in divorce court, the judge looked at Mickey and said, "Listen here, Mr. Moose, I cannot grant you a divorce from Minnie." "But why not? Your honor." A stunned Mickey asked, "I have reviewed all the information you submitted to the court and I can find no evidence to support the allegation that she's crazy," explained the judge. "Your Honor," Mickey exclaimed, "I didn't say she was crazy, I said she was fudging goofy." 3 men, 1 British, 1 Japanese, and 1 American, are trekking through the jungle when they're suddenly captured by a tribe of cannibals. They are brought to the chief, who tells them, "We are going to kill you, eat you, and use your skin to make our canoes. However, we will allow you to choose how you die." The Englishman asks for his gun and a single bullet. He loads it, points it at his head, and says, "God save the Queen." Bang. The Japanese man asks for his sword. They give him his sword. He says, "For honor," before committing harakiri. The American asks for a fork. They give him a fork, and he starts going to town on himself. Stabbing himself all over his arms, his legs, his torso. He's bleeding like crazy, but he's not dying quickly. Finally, the chief asks what he's doing. The American looks him in the eye and yells, "Fudge your canoes!" A proctologist decides it's time for a career change. He has enough money from his practice that he can live comfortably doing something he truly enjoys, rather than spending his days looking into people's bumholes. He sets his mind to becoming an auto mechanic. He goes to a local college to learn the trade, studies as hard as he can, learning how to fix, repair, and build all sorts of cars. Eventually, it is time for his final exam. He is told that he must fully disassemble and reassemble a car engine. After finishing the exam, he finds out that he got a mark of 150%. Worried that this is an error, he asks his teacher, who tells him that it is not a mistake. "I gave you 50% for fully disassembling the engine correctly. Another 50% was for reassembling it correctly. The extra 50% was because you did the entire thing through the exhaust pipe." Two hunters are out in the woods when one of them collapses. He doesn't seem to be breathing, and his eyes are glazed. The other guy whips out his phone and calls the emergency services. He gasps, "My friend is dead. What can I do?" The operator says, "Calm down. I can help. First, let's make sure he's dead." There is a silence. Then a shot is heard. Back on the phone, the guy says, "Okay, now what?" A vacationing penguin is driving his car when he notices that the oil pressure light is on. He gets out to look and sees oil dripping out of the motor. He drives to the nearest town and stops at the first gas station. After dropping the car off, the penguin goes for a walk around town. He sees an ice cream shop and, being a penguin in Arizona, decides that something cold would really hit the spot. He gets a big dish of ice cream and sits down to eat. Having no hands, he makes a real mess trying to eat with his flippers. After finishing his ice cream, he goes back to the gas station and asks the mechanic if he's found the problem. The mechanic looks up and says, "Yeah, man, it looks like you blew a seal." "Oh no," the penguin replies. "It's just ice cream.